That book that's been sitting on your shelf for years and you've been avoiding because it looks kind of boring, this is your sign to read it. We're back in the book chats corner, partially because I don't have a whole lot to say about this book, partially because I didn't feel like cleaning up my other area. I have some boxes and books over there because I did order a couple books recently, some for other people, one for me, but yeah, I didn't feel like fixing all of that. So we're here in the book corner, or in the chats, book chats corner, whatever I'm calling it. But as you saw from the title, this is a review of LUCINDERELLA, which I don't know how many of y'all are gonna have heard of this. I never had until I found it in a thrift store years and years ago. I don't know what made me pick it up because it has sat on my shelf for years and I've not really been interested in it, but I just haven't been able to get myself to get rid of it. I felt like I needed to give it a try. And usually when I thought about getting rid of it, I would read the dust jacket and think, okay, maybe this is something I could get into. But yeah, I did finally read it. And I'm filming this review a few weeks after the fact, which is not smart at all for me to do, but I didn't feel like filming it, and then I got into reading a different book, which I'll be filming the review for immediately after this. And yeah, I finally decided that today should be a reading day, so I'll just get right into my review of LUCINDERELLA. I've said before that I like old books, and that statement still stands. This one isn't like super old necessarily, but the copyright is from 1967, and I really love books from around that time period. I have a few others that I haven't read in years, but I read when I was younger and just really loved, and they definitely have a different feel than modern books. Like, I think if somebody gave me two books and didn't tell me when they were published, but one of them was somewhere in the 1950s to 80s and then one of them was modern day, I feel like it would be very easy to tell which was which, unless the modern author is trying to sound like an older author or something. But I really, really enjoy those older books. I will say that with an older book, with a book from the 1960s or even older than that, especially one set in the South, as LUCINDERELLA is, you're going to have some language in it that is not kosher today or is not politically correct nowadays. But in LUCINDERELLA, at least, I didn't feel like any of it was meant to be harmful or degrading. It was just some of the language that was used at the time. So if you're really sensitive to, if you can tell what I'm talking about, I don't have any examples pulled. I didn't like mark any of the areas, but just the way that like African Americans or Black people are talked about in older books or some of the terms used. And there was nothing like really horrible, just stuff that wouldn't fly nowadays. So again, if you're really sensitive to that, then don't pick up LUCINDERELLA and don't pick up any books from that era because it's hard to not run into it because it was just such a part of the culture. But I mean, if you just keep in mind that it was part of the culture and it wasn't meant in any harmful way, then I think you can enjoy an older book. So anyway, okay. All right, so there's a bit of rambling about that. I'll get off of my mini soapbox and get back to the review. Okay, for a synopsis, I have to try to give a brief synopsis, so bear with me, you know that I hate these. LUCINDERELLA is about this ramshackle family who nobody really knows how everybody's related. Some of them aren't even sure they are related, but they all live in this house. It takes place in Georgia. But they all live in this house, and the house was left to them by like their great-grandfather or something, and in his will he said that the house was always to be open to family. So they have there's lots of characters living in the house, lots of different interactions and relationships and things. It's very, very interesting concept. And our main character is not actually Lucinda, who the book is named after. Our main character is Clamp. And I really did like Clamp. I'm really glad that it was written from his perspective. He's a very interesting character, and he has a very interesting relationship with Lucinda also. The synopsis is going so well, can't you tell? The inciting incident of the book is that Lucinda is coming home. Now, she has been in New York for a number of years, and she's a very successful playwright and novelist, but Clamp especially is very worried about her coming home because her last few novels were about this family that lives in this house. And Lucinda did not use the most flattering depictions of these people. So Clamp is afraid that she's going to come back and get more inspiration for another novel and go off and publish that, and then they're going to become the laughingstock of the town again, and it's going to be more hurtful things for the family. So he's very wary of her coming back. Everyone else is welcoming her with open arms. So Clamp is the only one who's really concerned. But he also has a very interesting relationship with Lucinda. Again, it's not really clear that anybody is actually related, or if they are related, they're very far, far removed relations. So that does make for some very interesting things in the book. But I did find it to be very, very interesting. I loved a lot of the wording that was used and the way that things were phrased and talked about. And I should pull up what I said to my friend about it, but during it I kept thinking of one of my friends and thinking that this might be her cup of tea, because it doesn't necessarily have some huge involved plot. Again, Lucinda's coming back and Clamp is worried about that. But then a lot of the book is just meeting interesting characters around the town or seeing Clamp's life and the different things that he is involved in. And there's a lot of humor in it also, because there are some things that are not talked about outright. Like, you're not told outright what this person's job is, but without being on the nose, you can definitely tell. And there's a lot of humor surrounding some of the people's employment. As you can see, I did tab. Can you see that? Yeah, I tabbed a few things in here. Most of it was just something that made me chuckle or an interesting way to describe something that I wanted to be able to find again. I am planning to keep this book, and I will probably read it again at some point in the future. I thought it was really, really nicely done. But again, I don't really have a whole lot to say about it. I will see what I told my friend, and if that's worth mentioning, I'll put it in at the end. But a few days after I finished this, I started listening to Noah Kahan again. I'm very much into Noah Kahan right now. Usually that's like my fall playlist, but something about this spring has felt very fallish to me. So I've been listening to Noah Kahan, and I was listening to Orange Juice, and it made me think of this book. So if you listen to Noah Kahan, if you like his music, and if you like Orange Juice, and you're looking for like a relationship that has kind of the same vibes as that song, this is probably it. It's not like perfect, but just the tone of that song and like the main theme of it felt very much like Lucinda and Clamp's relationship to me. Okay, see, this is why sometimes I tell people about the books I'm reading, because then I can go back and look at what I texted them and it helps. So some things that I told my friend about it is that it sounds like a Southern Russo novel, which if you know me, you know that I love Richard Russo, but he is a Northern writer and most of his books are set in Northern New York. But this felt very much like a Southern version of Russo, mixed with either Flannery O'Connor or Eudora Welty. And I couldn't tell you which one because I read both of them around the same time in college, and I cannot remember which one wrote like which. I can't separate them in my mind. But it's a little bit of a mixture of those authors, I think. I said that the writing takes a little getting used to, but it's also very enjoyable. It's not on the nose, but it's very clever. And I wrapped up my review to her saying it's so short but so wild, and there was this random twist of action that is mostly what reminded me of O'Connor or Welty. And again, I couldn't decide if she would love it or hate it. I told her, I started that saying, I don't know if you love or hate this book, but I have to share it with you. It's a little bit meandering. The writing, like I told my friend, takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's very clever and very fun. And I feel like it is just kind of older style writing, and I really enjoyed it. Really love Clamp, and I think he was a great person to have narrate it, a great character to have narrate it. So for whatever that's worth, I guess that's my review. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. Actually, let me see what I said on Goodreads. Maybe that'll help also. Okay, and just to wrap up this review and hopefully make it make a little bit more sense, I'm gonna read a little bit from my Goodreads review also. So if you want my full Goodreads review, you can find that. I'm just Shannon Ardsma on Goodreads. But yeah, this is what I had to say, just a little bit of what I had to say. It's one of those novels in which not much happens, hence its Russo-ness, but the reading of it is nonetheless enjoyable, and all the little things that didn't seem to matter add up in the end, and I was kept guessing about the ending right up until the last page, meaning that I had 2 or 3 guesses, but wasn't sure which one would come to fruition. And it was a story that felt like home to me, just because I grew up with novels of this era, and just something about it, something about the writing. I really, really loved this. I hope that's a good enough review. I don't really know what I had planned to say about this. I guess I didn't really have anything planned. That's why I've put off this review for so long, because I really enjoyed the novel, but it's a little bit hard to review a novel in which not a whole lot is happening. But like I said, it does come together in the end. There were a lot of like random little things that got tied up, and I definitely was kept guessing about the ending. So that's it for my review of LUCINDERELLA. If you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe down below if you're not subscribed. Comment down below if you have any recommendations of novels from like the 1960s or 70s. I couldn't really tell you the dates of most of the novels that I read, most of the older ones, but I do, like I said, really enjoy an older novel. So I would love some good recommendations if you have anything that you think would be like LUCINDERELLA, or if you've read any Richard Russo and you know of another author who writes like him, please let me know. I love Richard Russo. I would love to find more authors that write in a similar style. And I'm officially just gonna end the video there. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!